Did you know that menopause is quietly costing businesses billions, and yet most companies don't even talk about it? You don't need to be a medical expert to support your employees. All you need is the right policies and solutions in place. So today, we're cutting through the noise and getting to know the truth. What are the companies missing? What are the real costs? And most importantly, how do we fix it? I'm Romina of IPG, and to help us get there, I'm joined by Anna Haotanto, CEO of Zora Health. Anna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I think this is a very important conversation that has been overlooked for a long time, right? Menopause is a workplace issue that I think is very important. There's a lot of deep shame and guilt, and I think it's time that businesses talk about it so that we all have more awareness on what we can do together.
You work with companies and businesses on this issue every day. So let's start with a question that has been bothering me for quite a while. Yeah. Why menopause is invisible in corporate policies? How have we made progress in things like mental health and parental leave, but yet menopause is still left out?
Okay. I think there are three main reasons for this. First is really the lack of awareness. Second is stigma. And last is really outdated policies that we have not looked at. I think many leaders simply don't realize the impact of menopause in the workforce, right? To be fair, a lot of women are also not very sure of what is menopause or, what are the symptoms. So the lack of awareness, the lack of understanding is there. And in Asia, there's always this, I need to suffer quietly. So, like my mom, right? When she had menopause, I have no idea at all that she had it. So for most of us, we don't really talk about it. So that's where the stigma or the lack of awareness comes from. And also, in addition to that, I think, a lot of managers, they're also quite uncomfortable discussing about it, especially if you're a male. Because what do you say, right? There is no formal training for this. For policies, we always look at, maternal leave, parental leave, but we don't look at menopause as a category that we should focus on.
Yeah, no, you're right. Research shows that 1 in 4 menopausal women consider quitting due to severe symptoms. What does this mean to companies?
I think what's important for companies is to focus on 3 main things: flexibility, education, and support. One of the things that that is often brought up is flexible work arrangement, such as remote work or adjusted hours. This will help people who are struggling with perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms to really manage their time, manage their symptoms, seek help, and really doing this without sacrificing productivity. Yeah, I think second is also education. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of us are not educated on how to handle menopause. So we can't have that conversation. So I think it's very important to get educated, for employees and managers to get educated, to understand, what are the symptoms? And if somebody in my workforce or my team is suffering from this, what kind of conversation can I have with them? I think the other thing is for employers and managers to really understand the symptoms and also educate their managers to have an honest conversation. And lastly, I think, having practical support such as workplace adjustments or company benefits can actually help employees to feel supported so that they are not chased out of the workforce.
Yeah, this is very important. Many women consider quitting or cutting their hours or step down due to lack of support. So what does this mean for leadership diversity and business performance?
I think this is a very serious issue, right? And what will happen is actually it will really impact the gender diversity in leadership. When women who suffers from menopausal symptoms don't know how to cope with it, they have to take leave or they have to seek medical help, and if they don't feel supported, they tend to become disengaged, right? And so this will actually weaken the succession pipeline and really negatively impact businesses. So things like decision making and performance. To me, the solution should be for companies to look at retaining the middle management to senior women, to ensure that they feel supported, because the earlier we can support them, I think there is a greater chance for them to stay in the workforce longer.
Yeah. So, I always say that, businesses change only when they feel the cost of inaction. And right now, we all know that menopause-related productivity losses cost billion each year. So beyond the numbers, what do you think, how are the hidden costs the company don't realize they're paying?
Okay. I think the numbers is something that will happen eventually, right? The cost, the profit and losses there. But what is important is when somebody has menopausal symptoms, and I have heard this from a lot of senior women, they don't feel supported, they feel very confused and they don't know what to do. So just to share an example, I actually have friends who tell me, I felt so lost, I felt so confused, I have so much rage inside me, I don't understand what is happening. So one of them actually said, I was driving halfway and I just stopped and I just wanted to jump down the expressway, right? It's something that is very serious. Recently I had lunch and this lady was telling me, a C-suite lady was telling me, for 2 days in a month, I want to divorce my husband.
Oh.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds funny when we talk about it, but these are real problems. So when these things happens and, women don't feel supported, I think there is really reduced employee engagement, increased healthcare expenses. The longer you put off treatment, the worse your symptoms get, right? And then there is also long-term impact for companies. So the last will be also absenteeism, because people need to take sick leave to ensure that they get their symptoms treated. So I think overall it will really impact morale. And to me, supporting employees throughout their perimenopausal and menopausal journey is not just a business decision. I think it's the smart thing to do.
Most corporate insurance plans focus only on acute conditions. But do they cover menopause-related care? What's missing?
Most insurance do not cover menopause adequately. I think a lot of them actually exclude hormone therapy, HRT, specialist consultations, and even preventive screenings related to menopause. What happens then is employees have to pay this out-of-pocket expenses. And for most of them, they actually delay treatment, right? But this has adverse effects, because the later you delay treatment, in the end, you might have to pay a lot more. And these expenses actually will not only, increase your health risk and also worsen your symptoms. So I think it's very important for employers to review their insurance policies, and on top of, say, maternal plans or parental plans, right, to look at how we can support employees that are struggling with menopause.
Yeah. So beyond insurance, what are the long-term risks of untreated menopause? What is the impact of to the company's workforce?
Before I speak about the longer term impact, let's see what are the shorter term symptoms, right? Because most people are not sure.
Yes.
Actually, there are 60 associated symptoms with menopause.
Wow.
Yeah, and most people are not very sure of what they are, right? The common ones are hot flashes, vaginal dryness, mood swing, brain fog. But these are the ones that people may be aware of. In the longer term, untreated menopause can lead to osteoporosis, cardiovascular diseases, and also some, I would say, cognitive decline. So to a corporate, I think from a business standpoint, this can mean higher longer term medical costs. And, it's very important for companies to look at cost containment when it comes to healthcare, right?
Yes.
Other potential problems can be lower workforce engagement and also more frequent sick leave.
Okay, so we talk about the problem. Now let's talk about the fix. If a CEO or HR leader is listening to this and thinking, we should change this, but where do we start? So what's the first move should they make?
Okay, if a senior leader is watching this, I will say there are 5 practical steps that they can look at. First is education. It's really to understand and educate your employers and managers to understand how to recognize the symptoms and to have this conversation with their teams. Second will be flexible work arrangements. I think we have spoken about this, right? It really helps them to manage the symptoms, whether to take sick leave when they need to, and to make sure that there is no reduced productivity. Number 3 will be healthcare programs, or even things like health talks, so that women that are in that stage actually know what is going through, understand the symptoms, and know where they can find information on this. Next will be workplace adjustments, where you can really look at temperature control, wellness rooms. I know that some companies, they actually give women of a certain age a nice fan. Okay. It really depends on what you want and how you can support. The last one will be workplace benefits, where, of course, it's always nice to feel supported, but there's nothing better than actually having monetary benefits, right?
Yes.
The last thing that I will say is really looking at policies, how to include this in the HR policies, because a lot of times it's nice to have all these activities, but unless it's instituted, then it doesn't actually effect change.
Yes. Yeah. So let's be honest. Some companies think that they are menopause friendly, but they're all getting it wrong. So what's the biggest mistake you see on how businesses approach menopause care?
I will say it's not a mistake, but what is lacking, one will be really to understand menopause-related symptoms for managers or employees. Again, I think most of us are not trained in that. Even women that are perimenopausal or menopausal, they don't know how to seek help, right? So that's the first one. Second will be really having supportive conversations with the employees, to make sure that they feel supported, to make sure that they have what they need. And last is to create an action plan. Again, to me, sometimes you have a lot of talk, right? But if you don't have an action plan, then it's not going anywhere. So create an action plan for on how you can actually make some reasonable workplace adjustments. You don't have to change your whole office, but maybe you can do small things to help women to make sure that they feel supported.
At Zora Health, you specialize in menopause support. So how does your program support both businesses and employees?
Okay. At Zora Health, we focus on a few things. One of the basic ones will be a health talk, where we invite women or leaders to understand what is menopause, what are the symptoms, how to understand that. Second will be to really do diagnostics, understand. You can actually get a test to test whether you're menopausal or not, right? So that's the first two. The second will be we work with doctors. So there is a virtual support network where they can approach any of the doctors so that they can get support. Last will be really corporate benefits. We do have programs and plans for companies to look at their policies, whether it's an add-on, to make sure how can we support this, I will say, mid-career to senior women better.
Yeah.
And finally, we also provide menopause policy templates for HR. So in case they are thinking of changing, what are some of the things that they should be aware of? And we also do workplace training where we teach the managers on how to handle these cases.
So let's break it to one simple, actionable step. If a CEO or a business leader just takes one thing from this conversation, what should it be?
Only one. Okay. I think if there's one thing, it's really to acknowledge this as an issue, normalize the conversation, and don't treat it as a taboo topic.
Okay. And finally, if there's a woman listening to us right now, struggling in silence at work, feeling unsupported, what would you say to her?
Okay. Two things. On a personal front, I will say that, it's very important to understand what you're going through, track your symptoms, get a diagnosis, and get the solutions. Okay? And if this is at work, for workplace, I will say advocate for yourself, right? Speak up on what you need, how you want to feel supported, what kind of support you think you need, right? Whether it's flexible work arrangement, whether it's medical support. I think a lot of times people don't know what they don't know. It's not that they don't want to provide, but they just don't know how to support you. So I think if a woman can really advocate for herself, not only it will open up the workplace conversations, but it will also help generations of women to come.
Yeah. That's a very good advice. Yeah. Don't be scared. Speak up, women. Anna, this conversation has been powerful. Thank you for your insights, your expertise, and pushing the business to take action.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to having this menopause conversation be more normal.